Because
you
most of my
want to say something, George? You look like you're pondering.
Yeah, what are you
ask
pondering,
me a thing.
George?
Maybe I'm wrong. Try to convince me.
Firstly, what do you...
Get on a mic.
Here.
Are you sick? Is he going to get sick from your mic?
Don't get too close to it.
What do you consider a radical idea, firstly?
I think a radical idea is like saying something like black people are less than other whites is a radical idea. Another radical idea would be that gays are abominations and they don't deserve to go to heaven, or they are not allowed to get married, or they don't have certain rights than other people.
They don't have equal rights. Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I think that an idea of, I don't think that no Muslims are allowed in this country is a radical idea.
It is a radical idea.
And if somebody believes that, in my head, it says, number one, you don't have any Muslim friends. Because if you had Muslim friends, which I do, you wouldn't think that way. Because my friends aren't violent. They don't have crazy. They just, I think that anyone involved in any kind of religion is weird.
I agree.
I believe that if you're fanatical about some sort of prehistoric book that was written thousands of years ago, and you literally believe, what this piece of literature says, then it's a little weird.
Blind faith in anything, whether it's veganism, whether it's animals, whether it's, religion, any type of fanatical behavior is very creepy to me.
Like Alcoholics Anonymous has a book, and they say the big book is the end all. It's like I read it, and I take things out of it that I can use in my life, but I don't believe that it's, everything that 12-step groups stand for. I believe that it is our Bible per se, but even in the book, it says these are just suggestions, right? Which makes me go, oh, I can take certain things and leave it. A lot of people that dive into AA and they do everything the book says, usually they stay sober longer. But still, they don't cram it down your throat, or they don't make it a universal law, So that's what I believe. Now, what are you going to say?
Okay, I think I agree with you. My main 2 points, I have a lot of very religious family. Like, my extended family is all very religious.
Okay, that's right. That's why I wanted to ask you, George. So you grew up with what religion?
Seventh-day Adventist. We're very obscure. We're just like Mormons, only we're right.
Wow. Now we're getting into some stuff here. Yeah, go ahead.
But then I also grew up right next to Muhammad Ali.
In
He was my neighbor.
Kentucky? Oh, no, in Michigan.
Berrien Springs, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. Are you active in your religion?
Funny story. I actually lost my religion because of Muhammad Ali.
How?
Did you?
Yeah. It was like a big factor. He would always try, like, my parents' land is right, like, borders his land. So we share a fence, like, we grow plants on his land.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was the nicest guy ever, so he was a very radical in his Islam.
He was a very devout Muslim,
so, a counterpoint just to, like, being radical in a sense is that he was the nicest, most generous person ever. But I'm not sure he's radical in the sense that you're against, because people from every religion spoke at his funeral.
Right.
But back to, so he would always give me Bible studies, and because Seventh-day Adventism takes such a literal view of the Bible, like, this is exactly what happened. We believe in exactly, 5,000-year-old Earth, all that stuff. So Muhammad would do Bible studies and find, like, all the errors in the Bible, like, this part of Kings disagrees with this part of Corinthians. Were there 7,000 or were there 5,000? If God
So
really
he would
wrote
have
that,
kids come to his house and you do Bible studies?
No, it's just me. It was like if I visited.
Wow, you used to go to his house then?
Yeah.
You weren't kidding. You were legit neighbors.
Yeah. No, my parents went to the funeral.
Oh.
They got VIP.
I regret
access to
what
the
I
funeral.
said about Kimbo versus Muhammad Ali now, because now that I think, I I was sad about Kimbo's death, but if we're talking about the bigness and the history and everything that man paved, Muhammad Ali is probably one of the most prolific figures in sports history ever.
Yeah, I still get goosebumps anytime I hear him speak.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
tell
You're
us
about to
more
make me
about
cry
that.
right
Yeah,
now,
George,
man.
I never
Yeah.
knew this to this extent. I knew that
That's a
you
rabbinic
lived near him at some point in the same town, but I never knew your parents grew plants in his yard.
Yeah, because he had like a big field, and my parents like were looking for more farmland, and my dad was like, "Hey, you just got weeds in this land. Let's make it pretty."
Okay, so
And
tell us how the transition happened. So you were Seventh-day Adventist, and how did he bring you out of that? How did he bring you out of that
He was
religion?
trying to convert me to Islam by showing me that the Quran is like doesn't contradict itself.
Right.
So, but he had this big old book of every contradiction in the Bible, and I was thinking like that does not quite work with a literal interpretation of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I want to drink coffee, I want to drink beer, and I want to have sex. So
what are your restrictions as Seventh-day Adventist?
That's what it's saying. It's very close to Mormonism. It came out of like the late 1800s, all that religious fervor in the U.S.
Okay.
So it's going back to the basics of Christianity, where like Jesus' religion is he worshipped on the seventh day or on Saturday. Mm-hmm. It's going back to all of that. We don't promote this that much anymore because we want to convert people, but we think the Pope is the Antichrist.
I see. Okay.
So that's. But now that like we're
You
trying to
and
get along
O'Connor.
with, get along with other Christians, so there are some radical beliefs. Even.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know what? The new Pope is not a bad guy. He
Yeah.
supports the gays.
Yeah.
You know, he's all about
He's
birth
rebranding.
control. He's rebranding.
Yeah,
that's
that's what
right.
he's
That's
doing.
exactly. He's rebranding Catholicism, and you
Yeah.
guys are rebranding Seventh-day Adventists by not promoting the Pope as the Antichrist.
Yeah.
You have to rebrand. I think that's what it is.
Every 10 years.
Yeah, every 10 years.
Look, if you're a club, an artist,
Yeah.
or a religion, you just
You have
have
to
to like
reinvent yourself.
reinvent. You have to be Madonna.
Yeah.
Except she hasn't rebranded in a long time.
And that's why she's going.
Okay, so tell us more
Okay.
now. I'm really curious, George.
So, what you're saying is what? That you don't disagree with what I'm saying, though.
After you explained it, but like my extended family, very, very religious and very heartfelt. Like they're the nicest people you'll
I
ever
bet.
meet.
Yes.
But they do take a literal interpretation of the Bible. In a sense,
Okay,
like
I'm not saying that they're. Listen, I'm not saying that they're bad people or they're not good people. I'm just saying that for me, I don't hang out. Like I'm not really close with people like that.
Yeah.
Because I just find it to be extreme.
They're not in your
And they're
inner
thinking,
circle.
and
They're
they're
not
not
your
my-
hangout buds.
Yeah, because of that way of thinking.
What do your parents? How do your parents feel about your lifestyle now? Are they aware of your of your lifestyle at all? You know, you
Yeah,
seem like
they're-
to me you've always been pretty open as
Nah,
a
they're
person. You've
cool.
never.
I'm open with them. They're
Yeah.
not as religious as everybody else. They don't go to church as much, you know.
Yeah.
So they're the more.
So they've rebranded themselves as well.
Yeah.
This is an important lesson here, guys. Yeah.
But George,
They-
do you believe in your religion? Do you believe in all those things still, or no?
No,
You can say whatever. I'm not.
No,
you're
no,
still
no.
going to be in my inner circle. I just want to.
No. I don't. I still have like a connection. I say we still, just because it's like
What do
it's
you
an
mean by
emotional,
we?
like Adventist. I have an emotional connection to it.
Oh, okay.
You know,
yeah.
so I will stay. Even though I say we, it doesn't mean I believe in it. But it is how I was raised. It's a very tight community.
Yeah.
You go anywhere in the world, you find an Adventist church. It's like, wow, there aren't that many of us. That's
You know what? I
That's
haven't
special.
met a person from Seventh-day Adventist that I didn't like, because one of my nannies growing up, she was Seventh-day Adventist, and I loved her immensely.
Let me
She
say,
was
let me say this
great.
too: is that I have a strong association with 12-step groups, like I said. And when I was in Thailand, I went to AA meetings there, and it was only me and a couple of other dudes. It's literally in a church, and I went there a lot, maybe 20 times, while I was in Thailand. And there is a feeling of camaraderie, and when you're around people that believe in the things that you believe. So I get that, right? And you were raised with that foundation. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying that there are just certain extreme things that people think that, like, especially their opinions about a group of people, that I just don't agree with. I believe that we're all human beings. We're all mammals. We're all the same, living beings. Why would you judge another?
Right,
group?
but you
Yeah.
also have to. This is where it gets complicated for me, because I feel like that fundamentally we should all understand that we're all varied. Our thoughts are all varied, but there are people, and many people that exist, that don't have the intellectual capacity to even listen to the other side. And that's where it becomes a problem. If you don't have the intellectual capacity to sit next to somebody who has opposite thoughts from you, an opposite religion, how are you able to, to even understand what the fuck we're talking about?
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say, for instance, you're a person born into, let's say, not the Westboro, but let's say you're a Christian born in a small town, and you don't exactly, you're like the Stephen Avery type. You're not well read. You don't have a lot of experiences outside of your small town. You don't have, access to new ideas, to certain things like that. How are you able to break away from your own thoughts? Like, how are you?
Even if I'm just saying though, if I would hope, and maybe I'm wrong, but if I was raised in that atmosphere, and my parents were saying that like gay people were abominations, I would hope that in my own head I'd say, I don't buy that. I think that's a little weird that a group of people, you would say that are going to hell.
And thank God you have the aptitude, you have the genetic predisposition
But I
to
don't
being
know.
more
But again, I don't
intelligent.
know, because the thing is that my parents were agnostic. I never went to church really. A couple of times we'd go, but my parents really didn't believe in anything. So my brother and I believe in God. I believe in God because of AA and whatever, my higher power or whatever. But my brother and I are open to the idea of a spiritual entity, but we do it because we need to, because of our own sobriety. Mm-hmm. You need to do that in order to get real sobriety, is what they say. But my point though is that if AA were like, gays aren't permitted, I wouldn't join it. But they're not like that. They're anyone's
inclusive.
It's inclusive.
And there are churches like that now. There are Christian churches that are totally inclusive. There are. They were talking about how the Muslim organizations and the LGBT community in Florida often work together. There are gay Muslims. There are gay every religion.
Can I ask you a question, George?
Sure.
Do you believe that Christians are at fault of this Orlando shooting?
Not directly. What do you mean?
Just psychologically, right? If you constantly tell, the public or your followers that gays are an abomination, isn't that a negative
But the guy was
stigma?
Muslim.
It doesn't matter. They say that too.
Yeah.
Right? Muslims say that too about gays.
No,
right?
yeah, it's exactly the same, actually.
It's they're the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think that religion is at fault?
In a sense, I think people with problems will seek out religion because they're looking for answers. So you can't blame the religion for what crazy people do in the name of religion.
But then, with that said, what do you say about Bible literalists? Don't you think that Bible
They're good people. I
literalists...
already said that.
Right, but this guy...
Wow.
This guy was probably a literalist in that sense, where he picked out a portion of the Quran that says gays ought to be dead. He was radicalized in that sense, and he plucked it out and applied it.
The real problem with religion is that you don't have an outside moral factor. So you believe that anything God says is right because God says it, not because it is morally right on its own.
Right.
If you look at like the Bible, like Abraham was supposed to kill his own son because
Right.
God said so. So like, how can you believe in something that says that you're going to kill your own son just because God says so? How do you know what God's saying?
The word of God is final. You're right. That's the belief that the word of God is final, no matter how it may appear, whether it seems unethical, whether it seems completely morally wrong. It's final, and that's it. And that's how these people believe. And it is.
Now we're getting into some Nietzsche shit.
Yeah.
I'm very conflicted every day.
I'm conflicted now too. I don't even know how I feel really. But let's Gilbert get back. I don't want to talk about this
Thank
anymore.
you, George.
Fuck it.
Thank you, guys.